Hi everyone, it's Richard here with another one of our daily podcasts for you. Today I'd like to ask you the question, what are you spending most of your time thinking about at the moment? If you're anything like me, you can sometimes find your thoughts running away with you about the current situation in the world. Whenever you turn on the television and look at the news, there seems to be more bad news, news of more people getting ill, and sadly even news of more and more people dying, not just in our country, but in many countries around the world. That can bring with it sorts of anxiety and nervousness and even fear. And even when we switch the television off and we've had our fill of the news, our thoughts can sometimes still run away with us. So I'd like to thought for the day, I guess, is to think a little bit about how can we manage those thoughts and how can we take our mind off them. And I want to share with you a couple of verses from Psalm 125, which is the Church of England lectionary psalm for the day. Let me read them to you and then I'll just share a couple of thoughts about them. Verse 1. Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved but stands fast forever. As a hill stands about Jerusalem, so the Lord stands about his people from this time forth forevermore. One of the interesting things about the city of Jerusalem is that it is totally surrounded by hills. So no matter where you are in the city, no matter what you're up to, whatever direction you would turn and face, is you would be able to see the hills surrounding the city. And the psalmist is using that image to describe the presence of God around his people, that no matter which way you turn, God is there in front of us and around us. That is still as true today as it was back then. We may not be in Jerusalem, but we know God is with us. He promises to always be with his children. And then verse 1 as well, it talked about the Lord being like Mount Zion. Mount Zion was one of the biggest mountains there is in the region. It stood above that. And the psalmist is saying that the hills are a reminder that God is always with us, but also that actually when we think about God, he's above, he's bigger and stronger than all the circumstances that we might face. But how do we do that when our thoughts might be running away from us? Well, one of the practical tips that I've heard and I think is really useful is we need to be informed about what's going on in the world. We need to switch on the TV or look on the internet and get our fill of news so we're not uninformed. But I think we need to limit the time that we spend doing those things. We need to let God be bigger than what's happening in our world at the moment, in our minds. And I think that means spending more time with God, bringing and turning our anxieties to him in prayer, but also spending more time with him and limiting the amount of news that we watch. There's a wonderful prayer that's at the end of this psalm in the Church of England Daily Prayer app, and I'm just going to share it with you. I think it's really helpful reminder to us. It says this: God of power, you are strong to save, and you never fail those who trust in you. Keep us under your protection and spread abroad your reign of peace through Jesus Christ our Lord. God really is with us and around us. He's over and above all the things that we are going through at the moment. We might be anxious and fearful about what's happening, but the eternal promise of God is always there, that God has victory over everything that we face, even death. That's the amazing news of the Christian faith. We may be faced more fully daily with it than we are in usual times, but that joyful truth is still there today. It's still around us. God is bigger, stronger, and over and above all things. So may you see God around you this day. Bring your anxieties and your worries to him, and he will be bigger than them.